Hello everyone and welcome to CommunityForce webinar. My name is Mehreen Mirza and I will be facilitating today's session. I will also be answering your questions during our dedicated Q&A break. So please don't hesitate to ask any questions throughout the session. We want this to be as interactive and as helpful to all of you as we can. Now we also have Christine Smith, who will be our trainer for today and walk us through all the key areas under this topic. Now, before we get started, I'd like to show you a few key features to help you make the most of this webinar. Now, on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see a panel with an orange arrow. You can use this arrow to expand or collapse the panel. To ask questions, please type in the question area and click on send or enter. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can, either by typing them in or verbally during the Q&A break. If we miss answering any of your questions, don't worry, we'll follow up with you via email after the webinar. Also, a copy of today's presentation is available in the handout section. Please click on the handout title and to download the handouts. Now, this handout also contains help guides, individual articles, and knowledge base for whatever the topics that we are covering today. Now, also for a smoother experience, we have put everyone on mute to minimize the background noise. Let's see how many of you have joined. Okay, all right. Since most of you have joined, let's start with the topic for today. The topic for today is reporting, ad hoc and global reporting. With that, I'll hand over the mic to Christine. All yours, Christine. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the session.
And thank you, Maureen, for that fine introduction and getting us started with today's session. So just as a brief introduction on what we're going to be covering today is we're going to be covering an overview of how to build ad hoc reports so that you can pull data from your application questions, your reviewer scorecards, and awarding information. So we'll talk about how to build reports with that data included in it. And then we'll show you also some of our global features. We also have, not only do we have the ad hoc report based off of one application, but we also have a global ad hoc report that allows you to pull data from multiple applications into a single report. And then we'll give you an overview of any other key reporting areas that we may have that you might, just kind of a nice overview so that you know what's out there that you may not have been aware is available on our system. So who's going to benefit from today's webinar? Well, this is, of course, any of you administrators who are responsible for reporting on your key data within your application process. So this is going to be a benefit to you. And so the topics we're going to be covering are going to be, of course, ad hoc reports. We'll talk about a section status report. What is that? And then a nice little tool we have called the application graph. And then what we'll do is we'll take a quick break for 5 to 10 minutes, and any questions that came about from that first portion there that you entered into the question box, Maureen will address those at that question and answer break, of course. And then after the break, we'll continue and we'll talk about that ad hoc global reports, what that is, a feature we have called Global Manage Awards One Fund, a fund history report, what it does, the global manage applicants, the recommender report history, and then also a global search feature that we have. And then we'll do the final Q&A where we'll address any final questions, and then we'll break for the day. So to go ahead and get started, the first topic, of course, is going to be the ad hoc reports. So what are ad hoc reports? So ad hoc reports are reports that give you the ability to create a customized report based off of specific data fields within your application form. So these are fields that were section fields, so questions that you built into sections within your application form. And you can get a report of those, as well as any questions that you created in task cards for your scoring task cards and that task functionality. And then if you're using the awards features, some of the questions that are additional questions in the awarding that are part of site settings, if you've activated those, we'll show you how to include those in reports as well. So of course, to get to ad hoc reports, I am going to be using a scholarship site, but if you're a grant user, please know it's the same functionality. Maybe just where we say scholarships, that's where you would just input mentally the term grants, but that's about the only difference here with these functionalities. So of course, I'm logged in onto my site as an admin. So I'm going to go ahead and to get to ad hoc reports, this is on a single application. I'm only going to be running the report on the data for that single application. So of course here I'm going to open up my application form that I want to build that report on. And then once this opens, I'm going to go to this area called Manage Reports, this tab here. And then once I select that tab, it will open up to the Manage Reports options. And so the very first option that you're going to see here is Ad Hoc Reports. So Ad Hoc Reports here, of course, you can see when you first open this up, it's going to show you the reports that you have built already. And then who is it visible? If it says all, it's available to anyone who has access to this screen. If it just says to me, visibility me, that means I'm the only one that can see this report. I've built it just for my benefit. No one else has access to it. So it's very simple to build an ad hoc report. The first step here, of course, you could go to create new report. And so this create new report is where you would begin building. And so when you open it up, the first thing you're going to see here is what's going to be the name of the report. So then you would just simply put this in. So what I'm going to do is just probably create, whoops, I hit my keyboard here, is create a basic report, maybe a contact list of my applicants. And so how you can create a report similar to that. But you can add any field that's part of that application question. Any questions you created, you can put those into this ad hoc report. So I'm just going to call this applicant contact, just to give you a basic idea of how this works. And then, of course, maybe you might want to give it a description so that when you're looking at it, you know quickly, okay, that's what this report is about. And you'll know why I put just submitted here. Okay, and then here is where you determine who gets to have access to this report. So of course, visible to me only, that means I'm the only one that can access it. Visible to all means I'm creating this for other users within my organization so that when they go to that ad hoc report screen that we were just on, they'll be able to see it as well. So I'm going to make this visible to all. And then the next step here, this is where you're going to start determining what elements you want to include in this. So for this specific report, I am going to go back in and I'm going to do an overview of how to do a scorecard, how to include scorecard information, and then also how to do award information. I'm just going to do a brief overview of those two, but it's all, I'm going to give you the general aspect of how to build a report right now. So I'm just going to use the application data. So what is application data? So what application data is, don't confuse that with the actual application form. Application data is the data from our system. It's going to be data that's pulling from the profile the applicant created when they first got to the site, their login profile. So that's going to be their first name, their last name, and their email address from their login information. That's the login, not anything that you created fields for within the application. And then application data is also going to be like the submitted date or what's their current status or their status detail. So when I create a report, one of the best practices that I always recommend is to make sure to include application data, because when I do application data, I usually always want to have a status so that I can filter on the status and see what they're at. But I always include this application data on my reports. And then the section data, this is going to be anything regarding the actual application form that you created. So any field that you created in the application form is going to be part of the section data. So since this report is my applicant contact, I'm going to want to go ahead and make sure that I want to pull data from my specific application form. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select the section data. So that's what you're doing here. If I wanted to do scorecard information, I would select that. If I wanted to also include award information, I would select that as well. But I'm just going to be doing a basic contact report. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull those two fields. So then, of course, the next step, we're just going to hit Save and Next. Okay. And so the next screen here, this is where if you're using, maybe you're using Google Sheets or you've used Excel. So the reason it calls everything columns is because it's just like an Excel spreadsheet. When you create an Excel spreadsheet, you have a column. And so each item that you're going to be putting into this report is going to be a separate column in the report that I'm creating. It's going to create a column, and then the rows are going to be for each individual applicant, of course. So this is where we're going to select what we want to put into the report. What are those columns? So when you're getting ready to build a report, think about how you want it to look, what columns you want in what areas, and then this is where you're going to be making that determination. So when you hit this drop down arrow here, you're going to notice right here I have a box in brackets. It says application data. The reason I'm getting that is because I chose that application data on that first screen. And then here I have section data because on that first screen, I chose section data. So anything that you've chosen on that first screen is going to show here on this page so that I know what I'm going to be selecting. And so you can see here under section data, it has the name of every one of my sections. And so this is where it's always valuable to be familiar with the build of your application form, because if you don't know what section a question's in, then it's going to be harder to find items. So you're going to want to know the section as well as the report name of those questions as well. So get familiar with your application form so that when you are building ad hoc reports, you know where you need to go in order to pull the data that you need. So like I said, I always like to do application data. So when I select this one here with the little double dash next to it, as soon as I select that, you're going to notice and here, and why it's not doing that, I do not know. There we go. It's just delayed. I'm impatient. Okay, so when you select the application data, here you can see these are the fields that it gives me that I can put into my report. So like I said, I like to include status. I don't use status details, so I'm not going to use that, but maybe I might want to know, when did this applicant submit their application form? If you're collecting a fee for your application, maybe you want to know, did they pay it or not? So this is, you can see here, you can even know, okay, what was their previous status before the one they're currently at. So here I can go ahead and select them. And then once you select the fields, you come over here and you're going to put them into the right-hand column using this directional arrow here by clicking that. So once you hit that directional arrow, you're now over here and it still shows them selected. Now the reason, what's nice here is once you get over here, I'm going to go ahead and hit unselect all, this is where again you're trying to picture that report, and maybe I want date and time selected before status. So what I can do is I can select date and time submitted, and then I can come over here and I can change the sorting. So I can just come here, hit this, and then it'll move date and time submitted above the status. And then that way, that's how you would change the sorting so that certain fields fall within the report. Because once you get it into the report, that's how it's going to look. That's where it's going to fall. The first one's going to be the first column, this will be the second, and so on and so on. So that's what I pulled from application data. So then the next thing I want to do is, like I said, this is just going to be a basic contact report. So now I'm going to go to my personal information, because I know when I built my application form, all the fields in regards to their contact data was entered into the personal information. So I'm going to click personal information. And so here I see the names of my fields, and these are the report names. So you can kind of see they're abbreviated, some of the names. So that's where, again, getting familiar with your application build and what are those report names for the questions that you had built. So here I'm going to say, I'm going to go ahead and put first name and last name. And I'm just going to pull those over for now so that I'm not sorting through this whole list, because when I get over here, I want the last name to be before first name in my report. So I'm going to move that up. There we go. And now I can go ahead and pick up the rest of the data here. So maybe I want to know, okay, maybe what country they're from. I'm going to put that in. And then their address information. I have more than one address field, so I do want to go ahead and pull in all of those in case they all got populated when they completed them. Because remember, as they're filling out their application form, there could be questions that are trigger questions that had logic, and that once a question was answered a specific way, another question would appear. So that's something when you're selecting these, you do want to make sure you select the trigger question along with the question that you want to appear. You want to make sure that that logic question has the dependent question on it as well. Let's just start pulling all these here. Postal, let's see, work, email, mobile number. I think, let's see, anything else I might want for a contact? Nope, I think we're good there. Okay, so now that we've got all of our columns, I've selected them. And of course you can see here I've selected them, but I haven't moved them over. So I'm going to go ahead and move them over. And now I have that information there. And of course here I'm going to just go ahead and unselect all of them. And I'm just going to leave everything be where it's at now. And then of course, if I had other data I wanted to put into this report, I would just do the same. I would select the section that I wanted it to be in. And then once I select that section, I would see the questions available. And then once you select questions and put them to the right, if you notice, if I go back into personal information, those questions are no longer present because I've moved them over to the right-hand side. So if you're looking for one, it may be that it's not over there because it's over here. Plus, this is only going to show questions that are active. If you have any questions marked inactive, they're not going to show. And the same with when you're looking here at the sections. So if you have any sections that you haven't activated and released to your applicants, so maybe you have them marked as not active, if you have that, then they're not going to show here as well on this column either. So that's something, if you're here, I don't see a section, I know I have that section, go to your application settings and look and see, is that section active? Because if it's not active, it's not going to show here in this listing. Okay, so now that I have my report, I'm good. So the next step is, okay, I have all my fields. I'm going to hit save and next. And just so you know, if you do forget something, there is an edit feature where you can go in and you can add more to that report. It's not like one and done. You can go in and go back into that screen that we were on and add more fields or remove fields if you want. Okay, so now this is where I'm going to do my filtering. So remember, in my application data, I did choose the field status. And when you're filtering is what filters the grouping that you want, the group of applicants that you want this report to include. So since I am doing that, I wanted to make sure I included that status, because if I don't include it, then I won't be able to filter on it. So that's important to make sure you include the field that you want to filter on to get your grouping. So what I'm doing now is I'm telling the system I'm going to add a condition, because like I said, I only want the ones that have submitted. So the easiest way to get a list of the ones that have submitted their application form. So of course, I'm at the end of my application process and I'm doing this listing. So if I just give me all the applicants that were submitted, a lot of my applicants have been selected for an award. They're maybe under committee review. They're not at that status of submitted, so it's not going to give me those applicants. So the easiest way to do this is I'm going to filter out the ones that are not the ones that I want. So I have my applicant. I got the report name, the section name. So it's going to be application data. So that's that first screen that we selected. Where is this field located that I want to filter on? What's the section that this field is located on? So of course, if I had chosen section data, then this is going to want to know, okay, what's the section, like personal information, academic information? That's what it's going to appear. But this is just application data. So that's why it's just giving me this. And of course, the field is, what's the field I want to filter on? I want to filter on status. And so I'm going to say, I want everyone who does not contain, so I'm saying give me everyone who has a status that does not contain pending submission, because if they're pending submission, that means they haven't submitted. And I'm going to add another one just to be on the safe side. So since I'm going to add another one, I'm going to put and then notice as soon as I did the and, it opens up to the next one. So now I'm staying in the same and a status. So give me everyone that does not contain a status of pending submission and does not contain, because I don't want request pending either, because request pending means they never got their full request sections completed, and so I didn't put them through my process either. So I don't want them either with my specific process. You may, so you wouldn't have to do that. You would just do pending submission and not worry about the and. That would just be the end of the line. As you notice here, I did add another one. I'm saying pending submission and this, and so I'm doing request pending, but I don't need to put anything here for the continuation. So now all I need to do is just go ahead and click finish. Now that I've got my grouping there. And then once I'm done getting my grouping, then I can go ahead and look for that report. And there it is. And go over here, I can click Advanced View to view it. And there you can see I now have my report. So that's the advanced view. Now what the advanced view does, you're going to notice on that before I clicked in, there was two different views, an advanced and then just a regular. The reason I clicked on in the advanced view first is because I wanted to show you the advanced view actually allows you to do a little grouping here. When I do a scorecard report, you'll see it even better. But let's say I wanted to group all of them that were of a specific status together. I can actually grab this, go here where that yellow bar is. See those two little arrows appeared? And I want to drop it into this yellow bar. So as long as those two little arrows appear, I can do that. And now you can see now it's a grouped them. So award accepted, selected for an award, submitted, they're all grouped according to that specific status. So you can do that with any of these columns across here. And that will give you the grouping. So now let me go back out here and then go in and just show you, go back to the report. So now you're going to notice now that I've looked at that report, I now have a date here. So this is the date that this report was created. And now if I go just to the regular view, you can just see the difference here. This is the regular view. And then I can actually export this to Excel. And then when I export it to Excel, I can do all my manipulation in Excel. And of course, a contact report like this would be beneficial to export it to Excel, because once you export it to Excel, you then can do your mail merges to it from outside of the system using whatever program you do your mail merges with. So that's what is the benefit of this. So I have my report now. And of course, every column that I included, it did include that in my report. Now, one thing you're going to notice, you're going to say, okay, why does she have a first name, last name, email? That's that application data. So that's what their login information was. And then this is the information that they actually entered when they created the report. And then this is the information that they've input. And so if you want to compare, say, well, did they put something different than what they actually logged in with, then you can see that also with that comparison. So that's the basic build of a report. And like I said, you can do that all of these columns. You can pick any field that you wish within the application form. So now I'm just going to quickly go over a couple of the scorecard report. So of course, if you were in on our evaluation trainings, we did go over how to in more detail on how to build a scorecard report. So I do have one already built, and I'm just going to kind of walk through those screens so you can kind of see the data that we put in there. So for a scorecard report, this is those tasks that you created in the evaluation section, the tasks that you created. And of course, any task that you have turned on, you can build a report. So if you don't have them turned on, it's not going to allow you to build the report for that, because it won't show you those specific tasks in the selection. Just like the sections, if they're not active, they're not going to be there. If the task card isn't active and turned on to be display on reports, it's not going to be visible to you either. The report will be here, but you won't be able to get any data, of course, if it's been turned off. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go into this DHG review test. And so anytime you have a report, you can clone that report. If you want to make an exact copy of it, you can clone it by clicking this copy here. And then what it'll do is it'll create an exact copy with the date, and then you can just click the edit over here and make any changes. Now those are permanent changes on this specific report. If you go in here and make any changes, they're permanent changes. But this one, if you make it on the copy, it's not going to affect the original one. So if you want to make changes, I always recommend to copy it, and then you have a copy of it available. Okay, so especially with scorecard reports, that copying feature is beneficial. You just want to make sure that you're removing the old scorecard data and putting in the new scorecard data. So I'm just going to go in on this one. Then this is the edit. This is where you would click to make any changes to any reports that you built. So again, here you can see this is how I built my scorecard. I have application data, section data, and scorecard information. And if I click next, I'm going to go over here. And again, here, if I go to application data, you can see I only have the fields that I haven't selected. But here, if I go down, you're also going to see not only do I have a section data, so when you're creating those reports, you can pull from the application data. You can put maybe there's specific questions, part of the scoring process that you wanted to include. Maybe you wanted to see their essays and along with this report. And then we also have here scorecard information. And then this is the 4 tasks that I currently have turned on. And so then, of course, when you're ready to create that, you would create the scorecard information. So you're going to notice something here that when I click this one, it's going to show blank because I've already included those fields in my report. So of course, if I clicked another one, you're going to see it's going to show those fields. So if you are copying, you do want to make sure that you go to the DHG, you come over here and you remove all these fields, remove them by going here and then clicking the left arrow, and then that will remove that from that report. And then you would need to go to the next one if you were copying and making this the athletic training, of course, then you would want to make sure and put those in. I'm just going to put this little guy back in there. Okay, and then hit save and next. And then this is the most important element when you're getting a scorecard report. So here in the scorecard report, you do want to filter, you do need to filter, I should say, not a want, it is a need, because you want to get just the task for what you're creating the report on. You only want the reviewer scoring to be tallied in to this specific report. So here I am going to say scorecard information. So that's the area that I selected on that front page. The section is going to be the task card that I created. And then the field, of course, is task name because that's the only one available. And then I'm going to say equals, and since this is my DHG endowed scholarship, I'm going to go look at my list. I'm going to say I want it to be my DHG endowed scholarship to filter on it. And then that's all I want to do and hit finish. So this is very important that you filter on the specific task that you're wanting to create that report for. And then once you're done, you can come over here and then just move over and then look at the view. And in fact, I'm going to do the advanced view here, advanced view. And now you can see, okay, so now here, I've got it by reviewer, my advanced view. So I've already ran this report. So if I want to remove this, I can just click the little X here to get that out of there. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to group everything by my reviewers. I wanted to see how each of my reviewers reviewed each of their applicants. So I plugged that in, and now I can see, okay, this is the reviews that Caroline did. These are the reviews Christine did. These are the reviews Crystal did. And if I move over here to the right, what's nice with the scorecard is you'll see there's all my questions and how they scored their applicants. So I can actually export this to Excel. And then once I export this to Excel, and of course not in this advanced view, you'd have to be in the other view to export it to Excel, I can actually get tallies maybe outside of the system if I wanted to also. But something else it also includes with a scorecard report, even though I didn't put the fields in, it gives me the totals. So if you're doing a scoring rubric and you want to see the totals, it's going to give you the totals. And then this average is going to be based on the average of only the ones that actually scored the applicant. So if they didn't score the applicant, they're not on this report. It's not going to show 0 reviews. So if a reviewer didn't go and review, it's not going to show here as a blank. It's only going to give you the ones that have actually reviewed. So then, of course, when it does the averaging, it's just going to average across those ones that were included in that report. Okay, and that specific that have actually scored. So that is a scorecard. So now let's go back to the ad hoc reports and just go briefly over the award. And before I talk about the award, I'm going to show you about what fields we're talking about. So in the award report, it's going to give you the name of the award. If it's a one-to-many, you're going to get the name of the award and the monetary amount that they were awarded. So that's what you will get in this award report. Also in the award report, and I apologize, my system running just a little sluggish today. In the administration tab, I'm just going to jump out here real quick to the administration tab. Under site settings, you have fields that you can activate under the manage award settings. And then when you're awarding applicants, if you were on the award training that we just had last month, you can add those fields added, and any of these fields that you've activated with a yes, you can include these fields in your ad hoc reports as well. So if these are fields that you're having added to that award screen when you're awarding an applicant, all of these fields can also be included in a award report. So now let's go back to our application and go back to the manage awards on our application. And back into manage reports. And then I'm going to go through just a brief overview of a report that I've already created here. So I'm just going to go into the edit. And if you notice there's a trash can next to these also, that's to delete it. So once you delete a report, it's gone. So if you don't want to lose that report, then don't hit this little delete trash can. That's just a forewarning here. So here's my reward report. So let's go look at how I built that. So here you can see, of course, here you can see I've selected everything this time. And I'm going to hit save and next because not only do I want the awarding information, but I also wanted to include my scorecard information. Now, if I didn't want to include my scorecard information, if I hit the previous, I could just unselect that and then I wouldn't have that involved as part of my application form. But I want to see, how did my reviewers actually score this applicant as well. So let's hit save and next. And of course here now when I hit this drop down, you're going to see I now have, not only do I have application section, scorecard, I also have award information. And then if I click on here under the award information, that's going to show all the available fields that I have activated on that administration site setting, as well as the available fields to include in the report. So here I have award information. So I haven't totally built this out, but I do want to also include the fund name and then the final award. So this is where you need to determine when I'm running this report, have I populated the final award field yet? So I'm just going to get their fund name, their final award, and then the status and date and time submitted. That's all I want. And then from there, I can just go ahead and move that over. So I've got their status, their date and time, and their fund name, and their final award. And then let's see, maybe there might be some information. Let's just look at their personal, let's see. Yeah, let's do their personal information. Let's go ahead and pull that in. first name, last name, just to compare. And then maybe get a nice little city, state, county, postal. I'll do a contact report along with it, because maybe I want to create this as a report that I'm going to create a mail merge. I'm going to create a Word document and then merge to some of these fields and put like maybe their fund name and their final award in that specific letter that I want to send to them. So let's also do the email. And then let's get that in there. State of residence, move that over. Okay, and then hit save and next. And then here on the award, if I wanted to filter on just a specific award, I could. But in this scenario, I want to get all of them, so I'm not going to filter. I'm just going to go ahead and hit finish. Okay, so now I have my award report. So if I go over here and view, then I'll see, okay, there's my award report. So there I can see there's the name of the fund that they received. So if I would have filtered on that fund name, then it would have given me just that DHG or just the DSS. If you want, I can go ahead and jump out of here and I'll actually filter on that so you can just kind of see how that works too. Okay, so here's the report. And then here I can get every one of my applicants as well as the funds that they received. Now you're going to notice here on this report too, this applicant received 2 different funds. That's why I didn't want to do it for all of them yet. They received 2 different funds, so they're listed here twice because it's going to list them for each one of the funds that they received. Since they received 2 different funding from 2 different scholarships, it's listing them twice. So now I'm going to go out, and then of course I can export this to Excel and do any email merges that I wish. So I'm just going to go out of here real quick and go back into that award report. Actually, I have this one right here, the DHG. Save and next. Need to have award information in there. Save and pick that. Oops, I just realized I did something I didn't want to do, so I'm going to hit cancel on that. I want this one. I did the reviewer report. I want the, I thought I had one for the DHG. I guess I don't. Okay, so let's just go into this award report and let's change it to, you know what I'm going to do? I apologize for this. Okay, let's say we have this award report with everything. Now I want to do one for the DHG. I'm just going to simply copy it. And then once I copy it, I'm going to go in here because I didn't want to lose that old data that I created. So I'm just going to remove this from the name. And then here, I'm going to change this to DHG. This is my DHG award report. I'm going to hit save and next. And then here, again, I'm just going to make sure I got what I want from my award information. I think I do. Hit save and next. And then here, I'm going to add a condition, award information. And then I'm going to say award fund name. And then I'm going to say contains, and then the name of my report, which is DHG. I'm going to put DHG, but if there's another report that contains DHG in it, it's going to give me that as well. But I'm not 100% sure if I have another one out there. So, okay, so I'm putting the name in here. So this is where you put the name of the report and then hit finish. And now I go and I look for that report, figure out where the system put it. Oh, there it is. I just didn't see it. Okay, so now I'm going to come over here and hit the view. And now you're going to see now I'm only seeing that DHG information. So that's how you would do the awarding and filtered for just that specific report. So that is it for the ad hoc report. So now the next report we want to talk about is what's called a section status report. So the section status report is a report that what it does, there's no drill down, but it's just a nice report that gives you the percentage of a section. So but when applicants are applying, you're looking, you see, okay, they're pending submission. You want to see a big report, a nice overview of where are they, how many have completed what sections. Maybe they're sitting on some sections and you can kind of see that from this report. It'll give you the percentage of completed for every section in that specific report. So to create that report, this does take a little while to do. So I'm going to go ahead and click it, and then we'll wait, but there will be a little bit of a wait. If you have a lot of data, we do recommend maybe click this section status report. So we're going to come here. We're in the application form. We're under manage reports. And then here is the section status report. So as soon as you select this section status report, it's going to start running. And I would recommend if you have a lot of data, because it's compiling it's looking at every section and looking at the percentage complete for that section for every single applicant. So it can take some time to run this. And we usually recommend go get a cup of coffee, or if it's very long, maybe at the end of the day before you leave, set it up to run like before you leave, click the button, and then you can leave, and then it'll be there ready for you in the morning. So as it's running, and please bear with me here on this, because like I said, it can take a little while. I did it earlier and it only took about a minute to run. But since I'm online, a lot of times my system runs a little bit slower when we're presenting. So we'll see how long it takes. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause it. And then maybe when Maureen's doing the question and answer, we can go ahead and click it. Oh, there it is. Okay, see, I knew if I was patient enough, it would show. Okay, so there it is. So here you can see, like I said, there is no drill down available for this. It just gives you the data. So this is the applicant's information, their login information, what their current status is. And then here, what's the percentage of each section that they completed? Did they complete everything? Was everything 100% complete? And then you can actually go and you'll be able to see that for every single section in that application form. So this one's like 50%. This is, all the way to the very end of all the sections that I have activated. They're going to be available to see on this specific report. So that's the section status report. And then another quick little tool also that I want to show you is under manage applications. So under the home, clicking on the application form, go to manage applications. In the manage applications, you're going to see this application graph. And this is just a nice little tool, little chart that the system gives for letting you see this. You can do by status or status detail of how many applicants. So when they're applying, maybe you want a nice little dashboard that shows you, okay, I have 14 under committee review. I got to submit it. I got 2 selected for an award, 8 pending submission, and 2 that have accepted their award. And then what you can do is you can actually click on this little number to the right here and then drill down, and then it'll take you to the manage application screen and show you who those 2 applicants were. And then if I go back here to application graph, you can see here I can get it in a bar, I can get a column, I can get a donut, and I can get a pie. So it's just a nice little dashboard to let you see, where everybody is in the system. You can see, okay, I still have 8 people that are pending submission. Click on this, I can quickly see who are those 8 people that haven't submitted their application form yet. Okay, so that's where I'm going to stop, and then we'll go ahead and turn it over to Maureen. It's all yours, Maureen.
Thank you, Christine. Okay, we do have a few questions. One of the questions is, I cannot see a section that I need to pull in my ad hoc report. Well, you'll need to go back under application settings and check if that section is active. If it is inactive, then you will not be able to see that section. So sections or questions, if they are excluded, they will not show up on your ad hoc report when you are creating the report. Okay, so make sure that the section is active first. All right. Then there's another question that says, my section status report takes a very long time to populate. So here's the thing, as Christine has mentioned, we also have witnessed together that with 27 applicants, it took a long time, although she was on, if you're not in a meeting, if she's not sharing a screen, it might take a shorter time period. But if you have over 100 to thousands, in that case, I would recommend you approach our support team in advance. It's best that you open a ticket and inform them that you need this report by so and so date. So what our team could do is proactively pull the section status report for you. If you have like applicants over thousands, then it's best to reach out to our support team so they can do it for you from the back end. Okay, and give us the date and time by when you need it. That's very important. So let us know and our team will take care of it for you. And then if you want to do it, even if you have like under the thousands, applicant number is less than 1,000 or so, when you're pulling the section status report, remember it is a very resource intensive report. Click on section status report as Christine has done, leave it on for a few minutes. Do not touch. If you have other admins also working on the site, let them not touch the section status area. Okay, you should be the only one touching the section status report. Click on it, leave it on for a few minutes, grab a cup of coffee, work on other tasks, come back, you should have your report ready. Okay, so that's the best way to get the section status report from the system. This is the last one before I hand it over back to Christine. My report is not pulling the data. So here's the thing, you can do, you can take the following 4 steps. Number 1 is update or sync. As you can see on the right hand side under reports, sorry Christine, can we go to manage reports please? You can follow these steps. Number 1 is either, see, if you notice there's an updated column, if your updated column is not the recent one, right, just make sure that you click on either the sync applicant data, number 1, if you're pulling only application data from the applicants. You could click on that and wait. Don't rush into pulling the report, because the system will prompt you that the report is still syncing and you should receive an email. See? And now if you try to pull that report, it is still going to prompt you. Then if that doesn't work, try to click on, sync review data. Maybe there's some data that still needs to be synced. Wait for a few minutes. If it doesn't work, the next thing, see, it is still syncing. Thank you so much, Christine, for showing those prompts. Those are important. Read the prompt, leave the system on for some time. Okay, I'm assuring you the system will give you the data if you leave it for some time. If that does not work, try to resave your report. Okay, when you click on the edit option against a report, try to resave it. Sometimes maybe you have excluded some questions and they're no longer part of the report. Just save, don't make any changes. Just go back, save and next, save and next, and save and next, finish. Yes, and you should have a report. Even if that doesn't work, check if you have added any excluded questions, because sometimes what happens is reports get cloned over when you clone the application. Every cycle when you're cloning the application, ad hoc reports will automatically get cloned over. Okay, so when you are cloning over, maybe there were some questions that you excluded from this year's application, and maybe they are still part of the application. Go back, check the report. If there are any questions as such that have been excluded, they're still part of the report. If that doesn't work again, open a ticket with us on Zendesk. Our support team specialists, some of our support team specialists will get back to you. They will thoroughly check and verify the data. Maybe we'll have to run the data from the back end, and hopefully you'll get the report from our support team. So there are 4 steps that you can take to get the report. Although I assure you, you don't have to go to the 4th one. You should be able to give it a little time and you should get the report. That's from my side, Christine. If you have any inputs here.
Okay. Nope. Okay, so we're ready to continue. So the next items we're going to be talking about are pretty quick items. They're reports that we have, but we just wanted to make you aware of some of the global aspects of those reports. So of course, global reporting. So the first thing is global ad hoc reporting. So the ad hoc report that we just created, there's actually a feature where you can do this across multiple application forms. So if you have more than 1 year of an application and you want to be able to run data across all of those years, like maybe statistical data or maybe by an academic year or sponsoring organizations, you can do all of that in global ad hoc reports. So I'm just going to jump into global ad hoc reports. And one thing that's important to know is global reports. So of course, if global reports give you access to everything, so in order to have access to global reports, your admin would have to give you access to that. If you wouldn't want someone to have access to all applications, maybe someone has access to just specific applications, you wouldn't want to give them access to the global report screen. Okay, so the first one here, global ad hoc reports. You can see as soon as I clicked on it, it looks just like the global report we just created. One caveat that's very important if you're going to use global ad hoc reports is you do have to have a master template. So a master template is an application form on your site. If you don't have one, then you need to have one created. You can always reach out to us to have you assist you with that. But a master template contains every field and every section and across all of your application forms. If it's not in the master template, it's not going to let you put it in the global ad hoc report. Because so anytime you create an application form, if you notice you're on any of my sessions, I've made statements of if you're adding a question to an application form, it's better to add that new question to the master template, because the master template is what allows you to be able to pull that global report. It looks at the master template and that's how it's building it. And then it's looking for that same XML across all the application forms. And when it finds a match, it can run the report on it. So that's why the global template's important, because the XML names of the questions have to be exactly the same in every single application form. So if you're putting them in your master template, pushing them down when you create that initially, pushing it down, you're going to have it in all the applications. As you clone those applications going forward, they'll all have the same XML based off of what was in the master template. So to build it, it's very simple. The only difference in building a global is you're going to be selecting the actual applications that you're going to, and then you select the fields. So I'm going to create new report just so you can see that first screen that pops up. This is the difference. It's going to say, okay, maybe I want to just do a specific academic year. Maybe I have multiple applications that are exactly the same. Or maybe I want to get my 22, my 23, my 24, and my 25 together and run maybe some demographic questions, pull some demographic questions and see what kind of applicants I have. Okay, so that's what it's going to do. So these are what I can filter on, the academic years. I can filter on sponsoring organizations. Maybe I want all the applications. If I have multiple sponsoring organizations, maybe I just want all of them for a specific organization. Active and archived I can include. And then this is where I select the applications I want to include. So you can see here I have all these demo apps. So maybe I want to include my 24, my 25. I'm sure I have a 23 maybe in there, maybe not. I might have error. And there he is, 23, and then click OK. So now I've got all those 3 apps, 23, 24, and 25, and then I can hit Save and Next, and then this is where it's going to start looking familiar. Report name, report description. I select my sections, I'm just going to quickly fill in some fields here. Hopefully I don't have one. Application, section data. You can even include award data. Notice no scorecard data here, only application data, section data, and award data. And then hit save and next. And then this is where, oh, it tells me it already exists. There we go. And then this is where it starts looking the same and where you start pulling in those columns. And then the next one would be where you can actually do the filtering. So that's where you would do that, and then it would give you all of those questions. And when you're looking for questions, like I said, it's always looking at that master template, and then what it's going to do is it's going to pull the fields from the master template. And so, of course, if that field isn't in that application that you've included, then it's not going to be able to give you that data on it, as of course. Okay, so that's global ad hoc report. The next report is also a global. It's the global Manage Awards One Fund. And so this is the same as the Manage Awards One Fund that you're clicking on in the individual application. But what's the difference with this one? If I go to the site here, Global Awards Manage Awards One Fund is I can switch between different funding. So I can go here, I can look at my one to many, I can switch. I can then go to my 2024. I don't think I can switch. So here I can go to this and do my awarding across. If I have more than one application form, then I can come here and I can do my awarding without having to go out, come in, go home, select the application form, go to find the Manage Awards, go to that. I can all do it from this one screen just by selecting the application form here on the screen, and it'll start giving me that data on a global basis. Okay. The next one I want to show you is based on the funding source. So if you have a one-to-many and you want to see all of your awards for a specific fund over multiple years, this is where the fund history report is going to come into play. So this is the fund history report. Sorry, I'm trying to switch screens here. And so here I can say maybe I want to see all of my DSS scholarships. So I put that in there. And so now what I can see is I can see all of my academic years and all of the awards that were given on that DSS scholarship, the academic year they were awarded, who received those awards, and the application they used to apply for that specific award. So there I can see everything, the big picture for everything on that specific funding opportunity. I can see everything that was awarded across all of these academic years, and I can actually export that to Excel. Let me do all so it shows everything on one page. There you go. So now you can see, I can see my whole history over the last few years for that specific funding source. So my 22, my 21, my 23, I can see all of the awards for that specific fund. Okay. Now the next one I want to show you is the global manage applicants. This is the same as the manage applicant screen. So that home manage applicants report where you see all your applicants as they're applying, you can actually do the same here. You can actually do, maybe you just want a specific academic year, or you can just leave it blank. And then you can select the application form. So there's my 2024. Okay, now, you know what? I want to jump to my one-to-many application. And I can click that, and then I can go to my one-to-many application. And then what's nice from this is you can actually jump to the Go to Manage Awards screen. And then this will take you to the Manage Awards, and there's your all the scholarships, and then I can award from that. So that's what's nice about the global manage applicants, is that it's the global version of manage applicants. It's not just that individual application form. It's helpful if you have multiple applications you're working with at a time and you don't want to keep going in and out. You can actually work with them all within this global functionality. And then we have the other one is the recommender report. And this is one we get asked a lot about. The recommender report is a nice report in that I'm just trying to find the little screen here. It gives you all of the recommended individuals for request sections. So a lot of times you may say, you know what, my applicants, they've requested individuals. I'm having to go in on every single one and see who did they recommend, who hasn't done it. What the recommender report does is gives you a nice history of all of the applicants and who they recommended and where they are in that recommendation process. So if I go to that global report, recommended history report. Now, one thing that's important to note when you go into this, it is by academic year. So if I want just this year, I'm wanting to see the ones for just this year, I would have to select the year and click OK. And then it's going to give me all of the applications for that year. It is, but you can filter by those applications and group them and then export it if you want. But this report's nice because I can see the applicant, I can see who they recommended, I can see if it's been received yet, the date the applicant requested it, the date it was received, the date that that section's due, and then go forward from there. And what's nice is I can see who the recommender was. So if I see who the recommender was, then I can, copy them, go to an email, and maybe send a message and say, hey, your applicants have requested you to complete this section. Maybe you're working with counselors. You could get the counselor's name and say, hey, this is your list of applicants that are still needing recommendations. They can't submit their application form until you do so. Can you please finish this for them? And then go forward from there. So that's the recommended report history report. And then the final one I want to show you is here on the page, no matter where you are in the system, even if I go home, you're going to see a field here called search applicants. And this is very helpful, especially if you have multiple applications live at a time and an applicant calls and leaves a message or sends you an email and says, hey, I need help with my application form, but they don't give you the name of the application. And you have all these applications and you don't know which one it is. You can always go in here. Of course, this is going to give you lots of them because there's a lot of me out there. But you can type in that applicant's name and see all of the academic years that they're located in, and then click on their name for the year that you want, and then you would be able to see the application forms that they applied to, where they are, pending submission. And then of course in this scenario, I see they have a lot of pending submission. I know it's 2025. Okay, they've got one submitted and one pending. So this is probably the one they're referring to, but I might still reach out to them just to confirm since they do have so many. A nice way to see all of the application forms that a specific applicant has applied to. A nice report there as well. If you need it, maybe you have applicants that are multiple applicants and you want to see how many times they've applied, you can come in here and just plug in their name, especially if you're a granting organization and you have a grant site, you can put in their organization name and see all the applications that they've applied for. Okay, so that's it for today. So I'll go ahead and stop there and see if there's any final questions for Maureen to cover, and then we'll close for the day. It's all yours, Maureen.
Thank you, Christine. Yeah, just a few questions before we end this webinar. This question is, just a second. Can I set up an account for a person only to get access to reporting? Yes, absolutely. You could do that. We already have role types that you could just associate these users with. If you go to the administration side, let's click on the administration, Christine, and under setup users. Right. So here on this screen, if you can click on create a user, just when you're creating a new user or maybe editing an existing user, just make sure that you are absolutely sure. So if you look at the role type, right at the bottom, you're going to enter all the required fields. Right there under role type, you have global reporting and department reporting. So those are the two areas that you could completely give them access. to a user, and they will have exclusive access only to reporting. They are not looking into other areas of your application process on the website. Okay, so these people will only be responsible for pulling reports as and when you need them. That's your role type. Then, can I add calculations to my reports? No, unfortunately, you cannot add calculations to the reports. However, we will take this feedback and see how we can make this work for you. I see a business intelligence on global reports, I think. Christine, can we go back to global reports once? What is that? Yeah, business intelligence. Yes, you're right. So this is an add-on basically, where we are integrating or adding on the Microsoft Business Intelligence, the Power BI, to your website. If you're interested, definitely reach out to us, write an email to clientsuccess@communityforce.com, or open a ticket with us on Zendesk. One of our client support specialists will guide you in the right way. We'll give you a demo if you're interested. We'll give you a demo, and then whatever you take from that call, however you think it fits your requirements, then definitely we can add this on. There will be a cost associated with the Power BI access on your website, and we are looking into how we can further improvise on giving you business intelligence access to your reporting as well. But reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to discuss this further as per your requirements on your reporting. Okay, I think just a second. There's one question. I am in the institutional reports or global reports. Previously, these were called as institutional reports. So some of our users who've been here for over 10 years, they know. Global reports, basically. And I do not see any sections showing up where I want to add these sections to my report. Always remember, as Christine has mentioned, your report is always going to refer back to the master template or the master application. If the XML name does not match with the master applications when you're creating the global report, the section will not show up. So that is why if you intend to continue pulling the global reports in the system, make sure there's a consistency in the XML reports. That's how the data gets stored at the back end. So the XMLs, whether they are sections or whether they're questions, they are very important that it should have the same XML in the application, section, and questions, as well as in the master application. So always remember that there should be that consistency, the matching on global reports. That's from my side. The rest of the questions I've answered in the Q&A box for everyone. Back to you, Christine. Thank you, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Maureen. So we can go ahead and close. Of course, make sure you get a copy of the handout so that you can get the resources section where you can get the click here. That'll take you to the actual link on our help desk and then give you more information on more detail on how to build out some of these areas that we covered today. So again, we want to thank everyone for attending today's session. I know everyone has busy days, and so we do appreciate when you do attend and be able to get more training on how to use the site. You will receive a recording of this meeting in your inbox by the next day. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to our client support team by Zendesk. Going out to Zendesk, if you have our global admin, you should have a login to access our Zendesk help desk, enter a support ticket, and requesting one of our client support specialists to reach out to you. And then we can go over any processes that might be of benefit to your system and how some of the things we covered today may be implemented on your site. So we thank you again for attending, and we hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you in a couple weeks for the next webinar. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.